Heavy metal
My
rock.
global mind.
Down the winding stairs, a shadow in...
I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on My Global Mind, we are speaking with Dream Theater keyboardist Jordan Rudess about the release of his new solo album, Permission to Fly, due out September 6th. Welcome. Thank you so much. Pleasure to speak with you again.
Thank you, my friend. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah, we spoke in 2022 before your solo tour, I believe.
Wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a while ago.
Feels like a long time ago, and I look it up on my notes and my computer. Man, that's a long time. A whole world of difference, right? Everybody was coming out of COVID, right?
Yeah, and a lot of things, have been going on, right?
It's true. It's true.
So,
Well, congratulations on your new album. It's a great album that takes listeners on an intense journey filled with moments of light and shade. So I'm really enjoying it.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, these things, they don't just like happen out of nowhere. They're intense on every level, really.
Yes.
Before the music starts, just getting in the mental position to create something that's that large. And then, of course, all the decisions that go into, producing something like this and how you're going to go about it and, what people you're going to use and all the production and then the time in the studio. And then after the fact, I mean, we're still working on it. So
promoting it and all that.
Yeah, no, it's deep, man.
With all your work, including Dream Theater, you always expend an extreme amount of effort and to get the ultimate expression out of a song. Do you know what drives that artistic work ethic that you so strictly follow?
A few things do. Number one is just personally, I just feel like for me, music has always been like an emotional release. It's been probably the main way that I feel that I can express myself and communicate and even let go of what I'm feeling and just get it out there.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important to me. And that's what drives me, I think, to just fill my life with making music.
Oh, that's great.
The other thing that I feel is really important for myself is the growth that happens with my instruments. Like when I'm involved in all kinds of different technologies and different kinds of instruments. And when I play a physical instrument like the piano or the guitar, I feel like there's something about working on that connection between what's going on in my mind and how it's translating through my fingers and just working on the ease of that translation, I find to be very, very satisfying. I feel like it's something that's just really good for me, for my brain, and just the way that I operate. And then, and I say that from a perspective of also enjoying making music in more maybe like airy technical ways. I mean, from waving my hand in front of a camera to being at a computer and manipulating it in different ways, maybe on a couple of pads and I feel like there's beauty in all of it. But I think that especially in a day, like days like today when we're living with things like AI and advanced technology, it's all cool. And I'm personally very supportive of all the technology. But I want to point out to everybody that there's still incredible magic in making music with these physical instruments.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, we're physical beings. We're not just mental. We're physical beings. So connecting all those dots, I find to be really important to who we are. So, not to overlook that when we're looking at the bigger picture and even talking about technology and this and that. I mean, it's kind of the way I feel.
There's also the joy of knowing your instrument. You're beyond professional at it, and it's the enjoyment of creating something with your own hands and your own body and your own fingers. And that's something I think that's really important. That's what I loved about it. It was mine, whether anybody listened to it or not. I was able to play it and I enjoyed playing it, and I felt self-satisfied.
Yeah, and like beyond just the playing of the instruments and that kind of thing, there's also the work that it actually takes to
Mhm.
create an album. And you and I both know a lot of very, very talented people who, could sit down at a piano or a guitar or whatever and just be like, wow, you're really talented at that, but they've never produced anything.
Yeah,
So there's a different kind of a skill set, a different kind of desire, I think, that goes behind wanting to put that much effort into actually creating a work.
I agree.
Sometimes like I remember saying to John Petrucci just the other day, I said, like, John, we're working so hard on this. Why are we doing? We could have done it, like the simple music. I mean, we were in the studio. We were like, it's no joke what we do there. Everybody is like so like into it and working so hard to try to make this right. It's a lot of work.
Right.
And then you think about it, and we are progressive musicians. We're the ones who work the hardest, who are playing the hardest riffs, who are writing the crazy harmonies, we're looking at all these weird rhythms, we're trying to get ourselves to play in these odd times and the whole thing. It's all about growing. It's all about the reward, I guess, at the end. And also there is something really satisfying about saying, okay, my album is done. Here
Yeah.
it is. Listen to it. But the skill set that it takes goes way beyond music, to be able
Okay.
to do that.
Right.
I think a lot of it has to do with being able to let go. And by that, I mean, not so much in a spacey way, although that's important too, but letting go in terms of being able to, okay, I'm putting my idea out there. This is good enough.
Yeah.
This is good. I'm not going to go back tomorrow and question it and then throw it away necessarily and start again.
Yeah.
Like some people are just like they cannot let go of any ideas and they're always questioning their work, and that is a total trap. You have to say, okay, here it is, it is Monday today and this is where I'm at technically, musically, spiritually, and I'm going to allow this to be my expression today. And yes, I will make sure it's, maybe in time or whatever, fix little things about it and whatever, but I'm going to allow it to be. And
I
I
agree.
think that's really important.
I agree. I think there's no such thing as perfection because you might think it's perfect, 20 people are not going to, vice versa. So I think that you have to be satisfied with it and like it at the end of the day. And I think that's
Yeah.
what's important.
Yeah. I mean, and especially nowadays, it's important to look at like entities that have existed and do exist, like, a Grateful Dead, right?
Mhm.
Where, I don't know if you're a Grateful Dead fan.
I'm not, no.
I have been to their shows in the old days, and when I got to their show finally, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get this. This is really cool. But anyway, my point is that they were never like perfectionists, and if they
Right.
were, the music wouldn't have sounded like it did, and it wouldn't have appealed to so many people. It wouldn't have had that loose, kind of comfortable feel that everybody could kind of relate to because it was never so clinical.
Right.
Nowadays music gets very, very clinical. We're all like fixing everything and tuning everything and da 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 da. But there's a certain magic to the things that we do that are not perfect. And that again, I think of that as, and also my involvement in what I see with AI and everything like that. And I love all that stuff. But the human error factor is part of what makes the magic,
And that's rock and
right?
roll, right?
That's rock and roll. I mean, you got to have a little bit of that schmutz and the dirt and
And
all
that's the
the stuff
magic.
that
That's the
comes.
magic that you fill the
It's
gaps with that makes it all come together. So I get it.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely something to consider, think about, and enjoy.
In the press release, it talked a little bit about you wrote this album based upon the tumultuous events of 2023, 2024, but it didn't allude to what those events were. Could you share? Are you willing to share? Is that something you could share?
It's really funny to me. I'm laughing because when I went to write this album, I was like, okay, well, I want to have an album that is Jordan kind of like wild, a musical journey, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I also want to have songs. I want to have vocal. I'm somebody who listens to a lot of vocal music. I really like music that are songs. And a lot of times I like music that is mellow, spacey songs.
Yeah.
So what I made a decision, which was like in the past, although I haven't done it a lot, I've written lyrics. I've written my own lyrics for my own music on my own albums. This time I thought, you know what? I don't want to write the lyrics because all I really care about when I write lyrics is that they sound good and they don't interrupt your journey.
Yeah.
And that wasn't enough for me. So I realized I had this kind of like partner in crime since the day she was born, my daughter Ari, and that she's a linguist. She's amazing with the English language, and she also speaks Italian and French and all these things. I asked her, "Hey, what do you think? Like, you understand my music? Would you write the lyrics for this album?" And she was like, "I would love to do that." So she took on this job. I keep telling her she should be part of all the interviews that I do because she wrote
She did a tremendous job.
She wrote the lyrics. I told her what I care about. I said I want to have some spacey, fun journey stories. I like science fiction things. I like just cool, trippy, spacey. I don't have any words that interrupt my ability to listen to the music. So she took it very, very seriously and wrote all the words. And of course I asked her, as you did, like, what's this all about?
Yeah.
So she was like, yeah, it's kind of telling. So I'm slightly vague because she wrote all the words, but until she, and she wrote me a whole summary and the whole thing. But I'm looking at that, and my eyes are glazing over, the whole thing. But yeah, when she wrote them, she said she really took into consideration everything that's going on in the world and trying to find stories that kind of talk about that balance between finding peace and as well as kind of the disrupt that's happening, around the world. And I was like, that's awesome. Just come join me on my interviews. So when they ask me that,
You should have.
I'll know what to say.
She did a tremendous job, and you should keep those notes because, like someday, you always want to know what did Robert Plant, what did David Lee Roth mean with his lyrics? What was he trying to get across? So with your daughter, you're going to have the summary of what it's all about and what it means.
I have it. Yes, exactly. So,
and I thought you knew your singer, Joe Payne. He did a tremendous job of bringing them to life and singing them with emotion and heart and soul. Wow. And smooth.
The singer thing, man, that was a trip because I decided I want to have a good amount of vocals on the album.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, well, who's going to sing on this album?
Yeah.
And I had some people in my circle that were brought up to work with me and do vocals. And the challenge with vocalists is that, first of all, so many of the guys are just going, rah, 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 rah. They're making animal Sesame Street monster sounds or whatever, and that's not what I really wanted to do. Other than that, vocals are very, super personal. Yeah. Like, you mentioned an example being, you mentioned like John Anderson to somebody. Like, I love John Anderson's voice. Somebody else is like, I don't like his, I don't like his voice. Or like Greg Lake is like was my favorite singer of all time. And you say it to somebody else and they're like, I don't like it. So it's so personal. So a lot of names and voices came into my world. And I was like, yeah, and I would live with it. And I go, he's a really good singer, talented, but no. And then went through a bunch of people. And I was kind of at a loss. Like, who's going to sing on my album? Who can be the voice of my musicality? Yeah. Finally, I was having a conversation with Roy from Prog Report. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned to me this guy, Joe Payne. And I didn't know who he was at all. He said, he's got a great voice. You should check it out. With nothing particular in mind, really. He just thought it would be cool for me to check it out. Anyway, long story short, so, got on the phone with Joe. I think he was thinking that he was going to be talking to me about my playing on his album. But meanwhile, I was thinking, well, maybe this guy wants to do mine. So after a couple of conversations, I asked him if he wanted to sing, because I just thought his voice was so melodic.
Yes.
So beautiful. What a gorgeous tone.
I agree.
And just so musical. So I thought this could be the voice of my music, So he wanted to do it. And what the great thing was is after I sent him the music, I thought, as is the case with most people when I'm writing such complicated, weird stuff, that I would have to go and explain like every note and write every harmony. I was a little concerned because of the timing. I was worried I'd get caught up with Dream Theater and not have the time to sit there and write all the harmonies that I wanted, or even figure out where all the harmonies would go. But when I sent it to Joe, he was amazing. He's so musical. He's really, he's trained. He can read music, and he figured out a lot of cool vocal harmonies. He did some vocal arranging that I was like, okay, well, I'm like hands off, like just bring your magic to me, because I love it. It adds another element, things that I wouldn't have thought of, which was the other beautiful thing about it, because he's a special musician. So it was more like, from that point of view, more like having a group where somebody else has something to say and you let them do it. And I just felt like that was a great thing, because you would open up, even open up the music to be wider and reach more people. So that's what ended up happening. He did a great job.
I thought his voice was almost like another instrument. And to your earlier point about complimenting the songs and not being over the top on it, his voice was like a beautiful melody that was going across what you were doing, and nothing was taking away from what you were doing, and nothing was taking away from what he was doing. It just worked in unison.
Oh, beautiful to hear. Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's the way I felt about it. When I listen to him sing, I just smile. I just feel like this is perfect.
Do you think he sounded a little bit like George Michael?
He has a little bit of that influence.
I thought so.
Yeah,
Particularly on
he
Into the
definitely.
Layer. I was like, wow, I think I hear a little bit of George Michael in there, which is
Sure, yeah,
great too.
yeah.
George was he could do Wham and he could do Queen, and it was perfect.
Right. And of course, a little bit of Freddie Mercury in there as well, right?
Yeah, so it worked out well.
All good stuff. Yeah.
I ran into John in April at a Judas Priest show in New Jersey. He said the new album is
Okay.
coming along great, and it wouldn't be out till 2025. Do you have any updates on it?
Yeah, so I finished all my keyboard parts, and I'm very pleased about that. I think James is in the studio very, very soon, or now, or I'm not sure. But he's doing his vocal parts, and then and then the whole mix and the master and all that stuff will happen. And then we don't have a release date, or it's not announced yet. But I'm so excited about the Dream Theater album, because I feel like having Portnoy come back was just such a welcome. The timing of it was perfect. It was such a welcome change to go back to our, as we say, like core lineup. Because although, I think that Dream Theater survived quite nicely in the days without him. We had a magnificent drummer in Mike Mangini. We, toured around the world. We did fine with, of course, the COVID interruption, which messed everybody up, but we won a Grammy. All that was good. But having Mike come back, it's just, you feel like there's this missing, there are these missing elements that were gone that now have come back.
Right.
One of them being relating to the way that he thinks. He's so unusual. He's kind of like, I always like to, I think of him like a film director, like a movie director. He's always thinking conceptually. He's always thinking, we played that part, and that part could relate to this part, and if we do this, it'll connect here, and then we have this visual element, and that, like, tying things together in ways that I don't think about those things, and nobody else does.
Yeah.
And he does. And I feel like it brings, especially in our genre of music, it brings this beautiful element to everything, more things to sink your teeth into. And I think when people get this album, they're gonna really appreciate a lot of that kind of stuff that's in this, that's making it like more than just a cool album of like Dream Theater music. Yeah.
I was wondering too, like, did you have songs written for Mike Mangini and then scrapped them when Mike Portnoy came back, or did you start off fresh, or did you just carry the same ideas forward?
Yeah, we generally just kind of like save our, writing for when we're doing it.
Okay.
Like, you know, and everybody's basically the
In
way
the
that things
moment.
work in our camp is we're all so busy. We're all doing so many different things. I mean, we might have seeds and stuff like that. Like I usually keep a little folder on my, you know, computer of I sit down and get a little inspired. I'll say, oh, I'll record that. So there are seeds to go back to. But when we block out the time to record the album, that's when we go, okay, it's time to write this thing, you know. So it's not like we're taking things from the past and just saying, well, we had that with him. Now let's do this. It was all pretty fresh.
Pretty fresh. I got it. Have you spoken with Mike Mangini at all? How's he doing? He did such a great job with the band, and you know, love him as a drummer myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly haven't really been in touch with him. I should reach out to him. You know, again, everybody's just so busy and we went into this change and next thing you know, we're in a complete whirlwind. And especially, you know, the way I feel having done a solo album and trying to get that done before the Dream Theater album starts and all the technology things I've been doing. I've been working at MIT on a very cool AI music project, which I'm doing a show in September to show our kind of like where the whole thing is at. It's been a whole, you know, kind of cool project as well as everything else that's going on.
Well, listen, I want to be respectful to your time. I want to thank you. What a fascinating interview. I love the new solo CD. I can't wait for Dream Theater album. And I hope to see you guys on tour when you do in United States, New Jersey and New York area for Dream Theater. I'd love to come out and see you play.
Excellent, my friend. It's nice to see you again.
Yes.
Thanks for the support and the energy. And yeah, maybe I'll see you on the road sometime.
Definitely will. Thank you so much, Jordan. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Heavy metal rock. Global mind.